Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going to try something new. We're going to do a history of Mesopotamia, and we're going to attempt to do it in 3 minutes or less. So, this comes from Jean Boltero's Writing, Reasoning, and the Gods, his introduction, fantastic book to read. But I'm going to try to present the entirety of Mesopotamian history in under 3 minutes. So, here we go. We're going to talk about the early period, particularly the 4th millennium, how cities were formed based on the region, the vying for power of the rulers of these individual cities, consolidation of power that ultimately took place, and then the struggle between Assyria and then Babylonia over Mesopotamia during the 1st millennium. So, in the early period, Mesopotamia, the region between the two rivers, generally lacked resources, for example, wood for construction, stones, metals, so they relied primarily on animal husbandry and farming. Rainfall in the south was not sufficient to sustain farming as it was in the north, and so irrigation was employed down in the south. This led to the construction and required maintenance of canals, which required administrators, organization, that sort of thing. So irrigation, because it produces higher yields, created surpluses, and ultimately trade with the surrounding regions. Also, the necessity of administrators to keep track of all the surpluses. These developments ultimately led to craft specialization and the development of the first cities. Now, the rulers over these city-states would at times attempt to take control of the surrounding cities, and as a result, you had the Akkadian Empire in the second half of the 3rd millennium, the Sargonic dynasty, and then later the Ur-3 Empire under Ur-Nammu, Shulgi, and so on. It wasn't, however, until the 18th century, under the first dynasty of Babylon, that Hammurabi formed the United Kingdom, and it then in the late 2nd millennium, Babylonia and Assyria began to wrestle for control. In the early 1st millennium, it was Assyria that was in power. During the Neo-Assyrian Empire, they were ultimately conquered in 609 BCE by Babylonia, and the Neo-Babylonian Empire stayed in control from 609 to 539, when they were ultimately conquered by the Persian Empire, which was later conquered, and Babylonia was part of the Seleucid kingdom following Alexander. And during these periods, they were diminished in really their influence, nothing but a province. And so the power of Assyrian Babylonia, their influence, really kind of came to a halt. We did it! Look at that. That was great. Sorry, that was sort of anticlimactic there at the end. Megan wants me to make sure I point out to see our timeline of Mesopotamia for a visual representation of these all of these periods. See the link below. Also, we have our 2 videos that we did about history of Mesopotamia. Definitely see those. And eventually, when Oliver allows us to have a little more free time, Megan's going to start the period-by-period examination of Mesopotamian history. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, guys.